So last week we discussed the Netflix deal with Warner Bros. And how that illuminated something that's happening on YouTube, actually, that it was really showing the same lesson, which is that it's about the YouTube opportunity. So there is kind of an update that I have for you, which is that Hollywood kind of hates Netflix. This was part of the discussion, but I want to kind of bring this up because it rounds out the discussion that we had last week, and it opens up a new discussion about hard numbers about what might be happening in the creator economy over, let's say, the next 3 to 5 years. So let me start with Sharon Waxman, who was writing for the New York Times opinion page. She says, I was pretty surprised this summer when a longstanding member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, those guys who hand out the Oscars, said the quiet part out loud in a casual conversation in my backyard. Quote, everybody hates Netflix, end quote, she said to a visitor from overseas who inquired about the streamer. And it's true. Even though lots of people in Hollywood depend on Netflix for their livelihoods, they hate the company and what it has done to the century-old, once thriving business. But up to now, almost nobody has said it out loud. Producers hate Netflix because they can't get back-end profits. A-list actors hate their agent, and their agents hate that they've put a lid on salaries and residuals. Studios hate Netflix when it poached their talent and jacked up executive salaries. Exhibitors hate Netflix because the streamer is undermining the theatrical business by convincing people it's better to stay on the couch. And so Sharon Waxman right there is basically saying that all of Hollywood looks at this deal and immediately fears. And I think that there's some validity to that to some degree, but I think that there may be a bigger underlying question of the actual true why that's underlying it, because I think that Netflix is part of the picture, but I think you can probably guess what I think the other part of the picture is. So let's rewind a little bit. I'm just going to summarize what she said. She says, everybody hates Netflix. The reason why is because they changed how people get paid and who was winning in Hollywood. And that's because they represent the transition from the production-centric world, right? Hollywood, the people who own the cameras, the people who own the theaters, the people who own the studios. Think about how expensive it was to make a movie back in the day. Still is expensive, but like comparatively, compared to what we're doing right now, for example, to Netflix, who's more focused on kind of the end customer. They're saying, we want to produce this in bulk. We're going to use an algorithm to kind of spread out the different things where there's not going to be kind of these cultural touchstones as much unless things truly break out like K-pop Demon Hunters. And so the question that I have is, who are the ultimate customer-centric people in the media economy right now? And I think the answer is creators. If you really, really think about it, at the end of the day, the people who care the most about the audience are the creators. I think that that's true, by the way, of the people who are making their shows for Netflix, but I think it's especially true of people who are posting to YouTube, for example, or posting to Instagram or something like that. And so to a large degree, creators are really the ones, in my mind, who are disrupting Hollywood, not necessarily Netflix on their own. And then once you take that perspective, you add Netflix back on top of that into the mix, and Hollywood looks entirely different. And so the deal between Netflix and Warner Bros. Is very important, and it's very huge because the economics of Hollywood itself, the higher production, the bigger upfront paychecks, truly start to center Netflix as part of that discussion because they're going to own a big chunk of Hollywood, right? But for creators, that means that YouTube is a bigger opportunity than ever before as well, because they get to compete on equal footing with everybody else, including the people in Hollywood who are angry at Netflix. So sorry for the long spiel, but I'm curious about your reactions because I wanted to bring that up. We have one more turn to the discussion too.
I think that it's a little bit of both. So Netflix probably messed with the whole economics of Hollywood just because there's no movie theater. Yeah. There's not as many middlemen, and also you can watch on demand and whenever you want. Versus with Hollywood, wouldn't you agree, most of the money is made at the theater?
Yeah.
At that actual time that you have to drive there, get a ticket, sit there, watch it.
It's definitely a huge chunk. In fact, people usually decide whether a movie has been successful over the first weekend of opening. That's how big a risk it is.
Exactly. So with Netflix, the strategy is kind of extended. You don't have to do it up front or whatever. And then it's more of a volume game. But I think creators are actually pressuring, of course, a little bit of Hollywood, but they're more so pressuring Netflix to have more content. What do we say? More so than creators, YouTube. It's just endless kinds of content. And that is purely because so much of our content consumption is happening on the phone.
100%.
Right? So when you're on the phone, you're less likely to actually watch Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, and all those. You're going to watch some kind of social media. YouTube is a major player. I don't think it's dominant as much as it is on the TV, funny enough.
Yeah.
Just because TikTok is still a huge thing, right? For short form content. Facebook, Instagram for the social side, and then YouTube more for the video side. YouTube might only win or actually like is competitive because you're watching longer videos. So creators on YouTube are pressuring everybody, but in this case, pressuring Netflix.
Yeah.
To have a bigger library. How do they get the bigger library? By buying more properties and then paying actors even, right? Like, I think in my opinion, a actual actor that helped in messing with the whole Hollywood dynamic is Adam Sandler.
Why is that?
Well, because I think he has a special contract with most, if not all his movies are all done on Netflix.
I didn't know that.
You should double check that.
Well, Happy Gilmore's on there.
Well, I'm saying after that era.
Interesting, huh?
Think about it. There's not any movies that Adam Sandler puts out that isn't a Netflix movie.
Interesting, huh?
And so why would he want to do that? Payday.
Yeah.
Big time payday. Probably like a long-term payday versus when you're...
The stability,
Yeah,
probably.
when you're working with Hollywood, you get paid on the actual show or movie that you're doing. And so there's this like predictability. You're getting signed by a team basically.
Exactly.
Okay. So, but all that is exciting for creators on YouTube specifically, but I think all digital platforms, because a lot of the advertisement, because there was advertising within movies, but especially on shows on TV, or shifting to wherever the eyeballs are at. And one of the big places is on the phone. And the second big place that's getting bigger and bigger and now is like by the data in terms of amount of time watch is on the TV. So naturally as creators, I told you my AdSense has gone up.
Yes.
I know more creators that survive off their AdSense than ever before. Let's say that. And that's crazy because in the very beginning, my biggest checks, our biggest paydays were from AdSense, but that shifted as brand deals got more popular as you sold merch and your own products and just all kinds of other business opportunities. So that's what I would say is creators are actually the ones pressuring Netflix, which indirectly pressure Hollywood.
You are reading my mind because this is the second turn of the conversation, which is that I have numbers that will tell you exactly how big the opportunity is about to be. So it's the TV era of YouTube. We said that 3 times now on this show, right? And there is a piece of the Netflix discussion that actually exactly shows what's going on here. So one of the things is that, Warner Bros. Has a long, long history of its own. But a few years ago, they combined with this company called Discovery, right? And I think it's Discovery. They owned the cable networks and the broadcast networks that put the shows on TV, not on movie theaters and TV. So you can think of the Warner Bros. Side as movies and creation of TV shows, and you can think of the Discovery side as broadcast and cable TV. And so one of the things about the Netflix deal is that they're only buying the Warner Bros. Side. They're saying, we don't want Discovery. Why would that be? They have a whole set of assets, right? That they own. They know how to get stuff into the TVs of America. Well, it's because it's a dying business. They don't want to own a dying business. And so they said, we're going to cut this in half. Discovery is going to go off on its own. And Warner Bros. Is the thing that we're going to get. Cable is dying. We don't want it. And so exactly like you said, the reason this is important is because of money. And in this scenario, we're only going to focus on the ad money. We're not going to focus on subscription money because they're kind of 2 different pools of cash. And for YouTubers, we mostly care about the ad money in this scenario because that's how most YouTubers make money. And so right now, in the creator economy, there's $37 billion floating around when it comes to ads in particular. In cable and broadcast, as of right now, they call it linear TV today, the number's $50 billion. So think about that. Cable and broadcast, there's still a lot of people watching. It's a dying business, but there's more money in advertising in cable and broadcast than there is in the creator economy at large right now, right? So what does that mean? Neutrally, is now a good time to pop quiz you?
Let's do it.
Okay. So if there's $50 billion in traditional TV, and there's $37 billion in the creator economy. Imagine if TV entirely disappeared today, would advertisers also just stop advertising? The ones who just were on the TV before, would they just stop advertising altogether?
No.
What do you think they would do? Where would they go?
They would go to a different platform.
Yeah, wherever the eyeballs are,
Yeah.
right? That's exactly what Benji was saying. And so the places where they're going to go is they're going to go to streaming, right? Because that's the thing. If cable's dying, streaming's living, right? It's growing. And who are the top two streaming players right now in terms of like the big names? Netflix and YouTube. So here's the theory, right? We've talked about it before, but just to be clear, YouTube is the future of broadcast TV, and Netflix is the future of cable TV. This is kind of my theory, right? So if you think about the old days, right, the way broadcast TV worked is that we had these airwaves, we had these giant antennas that popped out of the ground, and you had bunny ears on your TV, and for free you could tune into any one of the, well, at the beginning it was like 2 or 3 channels, but eventually, a couple dozen, maybe 50 to 100 if you're really lucky, right, depending on what type of tuner you have. But you had to do it for free. And guess what? That entire thing, how could they support it for free? Well, they had advertisers that paid them money. Over time, we got this technology called cable, right? And cable came in, and there was, I think, less advertising at the beginning in some things. Sometimes there was no advertising, like on HBO, for example. And what you would do is you would pay these companies for the service of higher quality video, more channels, and sometimes better or less advertising at the beginning, but eventually lots of advertising as well. And so if broadcast TV is going away because people aren't watching with bunny ears anymore, and cable TV is going away just because it's a dying medium, well, who is going to replace that? I think that same structure is coming right on back. And if you think about who's competing for cable, you've got Disney Plus, you've got Amazon Prime, you've got Netflix, you've got Paramount Plus, you've got Peacock. I could go down the list. Right now, you've got HBO Max until Netflix buys them. Who's competing on the free side of that equation? Is there anyone other than YouTube?
Oh, on the free side, well, social media in general, like a
But not on the
TikTok.
TV.
Oh, well, they're trying. They're trying.
So
Instagram.
Put a pin in that. Okay. But no one else that I can think of, right? Maybe Tubi if you do that, but are they really a player? I mean, not really, right?
Yeah, no one's significant.
No one's significant. So, neutrally, you told us that the money wouldn't go away. Benji, we've talked about how YouTube is the new broadcast TV. That means that YouTube has the opportunity to stand alone and be as big of all of broadcast TV
Oh my gosh.
together. So you think about that 50, and so here's the bottom line. Let me just say it with the bottom line numbers. There's a giant treasure chest of $50 billion that has to end up somewhere.
Oh, I love that.
Where's it coming? I'm going to guess it's going to be split between YouTube and some of the other players, but I bet you because YouTube is so good and so big, a big chunk of that $50 billion is coming to YouTube. And so here's the bottom line for creators. Here's the takeaway for creators. Make content for the TV. If all of what we talked about in this podcast isn't clear enough, it is time to start making content for the TV because people are not going to just advertise across any social media, although that's part of it. Advertisers are kind of conservative. They know that TV advertising works. And so people are watching on the TV, so it suddenly becomes viable for them because they can recognize that it looks the same. So make stuff for the TV, and I can guarantee you that there's a huge wave coming to not only the creator economy, but especially YouTube.
Well, I never thought of YouTube being the broadcast television inheritor, and then Netflix being the cable television, because cable television typically is more like shows, proper shows or movies. There are some cable news would probably go more towards YouTube, right? That'd be
Probably.
the unique part. I think the distinction is whatever is real time, fresh, new, and current will be on YouTube. Whatever can live kind of evergreen in terms of an entertainment factor is going to be more and more Netflix. This is why Netflix is buying up talent for their thing. By the way, did you find out if Adam has a special deal?
Yes, I actually did. So Adam Sandler...
Get on camera.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Got my angle here now. What's up, guys? So Adam Sandler actually has a long-running deal with Netflix. It started back in 2014, and it signed to a multi-movie agreement through his production company, Happy Madison. So his Happy Gilmore 2 was on there, his Murder Mystery, his second sequel was on there. So he does have a long-standing contract with Netflix.
Yeah, so it's like where he's kind of exclusive with Netflix.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
His production company.
So, okay, anyways, why did I bring him up? And I didn't even know what you were going to say after that.
I know, it's crazy.
Traditional Hollywood, though they don't like Netflix, is going to go more towards that way because what do they want? They want to get paid, right? So that's where the biggest opportunities. I just still think there's going to be a lot of competition for Netflix because Apple, Amazon Prime, Hulu's Disney Plus will still have a lot of competition. What's unique about YouTube is it dominating. That's why YouTube TV is interesting to me. Because YouTube TV and YouTube should just be one thing. But the biggest takeaway for me is $50 billion.
$50 billion.
$15 billion that probably won't all go to YouTube because they might just advertise wherever your attention is.
Totally.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's like a actual TV show or a movie or whatever. I think that, so an example would be the difference between an ad that plays on YouTube versus like a ad that is in your Facebook feed. Okay.
I actually do think that there is a difference, by the way.
Okay, tell me.
And this is what I mean by advertisers being kind of conservative, right? A lot of, when you look at the way advertisers spend money, a lot of times they will have budgets for certain categories of things. And a lot of times these big advertisers they've been around for a long time. They aren't really going to change that quickly, right? So that's why, I mean, you experienced this as someone who was early to YouTube. Wasn't it kind of hard at the beginning to get anybody to pay you for the content you created on YouTube, even though you were giving them tons of attention and tons of return on investment early on?
Yeah, no.
Really? So tell me more about that.
Repeat what you're saying because I'm thinking about Doc Rock's comment.
So think about the beginning of your and Judy's journey on YouTube, right? The story you've told me is that you doubled Judy's rate, right?
Yeah.
From $50 to $100. Yeah. Were they getting probably more than $100 of value based off of that?
For sure.
I mean, how much, just ballpark, what do you think that they'd be getting at that time?
Oh,
in terms of value?
What was the actual value at that time?
What would you have charged with hindsight?
If I understood what she should have been charging? Oh, definitely to the tune of $1,000+ at that time. Yeah, for sure.
So
at least.
So first of all, they were a little skeptical about paying you, right? You didn't necessarily, not necessarily that company.
Probably more so they were just knowing they could get a deal.
Well, that's another thing too, right? But there were a lot of companies that were late to the game in advertising on social media because it was a new category that was emerging and they didn't know how to treat it, right? Think about what the internet is. You had YouTube, you had Facebook. All of these people had to earn advertisers' trust before they could take advertisers' money, which is kind of interesting. And so the best example of this that I have is Twitter. When Twitter went away, there are giant advertising buckets that didn't get spent anywhere. There were, I don't know how much money, I'm guessing millions and millions of dollars that were just not spent because the category that they had were small, live posts. And there was nobody to replace them that could accept ad money. And so Threads didn't accept ad money at the beginning. Mastodon definitely didn't accept ad money at that point. And so the only thing that was left was X. And at the time, it was a big question about whether there would be the same number of advertisers spent just because of all the politics of it all. But like a good example is like a news publication like The Verge entirely re-architected their homepage to basically kind of become a slight Twitter clone in some ways. And they started advertising in those slots because they knew they could tap into those budgets that were untapped because they didn't have anywhere else to advertise.
Where were those budgets at first?
Twitter.
Oh, got it. Yeah,
100% on Twitter. Right. And so they literally think by category of content and they they create their budgets based off of that, right? And so it actually does matter whether it's on the TV versus in your Facebook feed.
Because that behavior determines how they spend.
That's exactly
and what
right.
they spend on.
And it also depends on how they think about it, right? How do they think about a customer that's watching TV versus a customer that's scrolling through Facebook?
Oh, definitely way more authority on television for whatever reason. I think part of that is, I mean, this is what's interesting. I don't know if you were planning for me to figure this out in real time. Because you're spending more time on there. So you trust.
Very true.
You trust in my case, you trust the creators on this YouTube channel more. So even if it's not your ad, there's something like, oh, this is just like, I don't know, this is more authoritative. This is more valid. This is just like, it's outside of the fact that it might align with me. because they know who I am and they're advertising towards me. Yeah, there is something. And also, it's a longer commercial.
Yes.
Right? You have more time to sell the product versus when you're scrolling. By the way, who wants to see an ad while you're scrolling? Nobody. But for whatever reason, when you're watching long form content now, it used to be TV, not movies, right? But on TV, you just accepted that there's TVs. Like, isn't that crazy? Because that's what blows my mind. There was a time on YouTube when just one ad, you can forgive that. So when we started getting the option to do 2 ads or 3 ads as creators, we're like, no way you could do that. You're going to know everybody, no one's going to watch. Well, now I upload a YouTube vlog and 7 to 10 ads play. That's like, by the way, that's like TV, but better. Why?
Because they have the data on you.
Not just that, it doesn't play all at once. See, when you're watching TV shows, when the commercial came up, right? You guys all know this feeling. Oh my gosh, when are the commercials going to end? It's like 3 or 4 deep, and you're just like, come on, let's get the show started. Well, YouTube is smart enough, right? Their AdSense tool to just play the one. You get through like 30 seconds. If there's a skip ad, a skip button, you just skip it. So it's way more effective, but still you can, if you're an advertiser, you just can squeeze in a longer ad to sell your product versus not just Facebook, Instagram, all these other platforms. TikTok is really the worst because people literally just swipe past it and they're not even consuming it. Now, it must work. This is the question for me. It must work neutrally. Have you ever been on TikTok and bought something that was advertised to you on TikTok?
But not like TikTok Shop, just like TikTok advertising.
Yes.
Really?
What'd you buy?
Not TikTok Shop, but videos that I saw on the product on TikTok. Yes, I bought a DJ controller that I was really just interested in, and somebody just made a quick short, and I was like, "Yep, that's the DJ controller."
Wait, was that a brand deal on their actual like TikTok?
Like, did it have the
content?
sponsored thing at the bottom,
or was it an ad, like an advertisement?
It was honestly just a DJ guy that was not sponsored. He bought it with his own money. He was like, "Hey guys, here's the new Hercules Impulse T7."
That's different.
It's just content at that point.
It's just content.
It's organic content. So okay, but never an ad.
Nope.
When you go on TikTok, you probably swipe through the ads.
Yes, literally just autoplay. I just don't even look at the first video. Just
that's my question. Are people actually buying stuff from the advertisements that go onto TikTok? And I think it's a lot less likely. Well, this is where they make it up with volume, right?
Yeah.
Tons and tons of ads. But on YouTube, it's a longer amount of time that you're going to sit there, especially if it's unskippable. Anyways, where are we going with this?
Well, I just want to bring up what Doc said in the chat, right? So real-time follow-up from Doc here. He mentions that, don't forget the power of Alphabet, right? Their ads on Google and YouTube are targeted. TV is spray and pray, which is kind of what I was bringing up before, right? So like, not only are these advertisers looking at the TV bucket and saying, hey, we're going to spend all of our money in this TV bucket, but they're getting probably more ROI is my guess for the thing, because they're actually targeting the right people. I mean, I think of like the number of ads that to be honest, on YouTube too, there's a lot of ads that I don't really care about, but especially they're better than the ones on TV. I'm like, why are they showing this on TV? Like, who possibly could be interested? There must be somebody. I mean, it must be working some way.
The type of ads that are just commercial compared to just on social media and like YouTube, yeah, those are really crass contrast.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's all to say that, again, the bottom line is that there is, Benji, your bottom line is the exact same as mine, which is there's $50 billion in play, and it's coming to, not all of it, but a big portion of it, I would guess, is probably coming to YouTube. And it might even be more than that.